Olympic gymnast, professional speaker, coach. What else am I missing there?
High fiver.
High fiver. Great handstander, and maybe he'll teach us how to do backflips later on today.
Okay. Thanks, John. All right, so we're gonna try just showing a video. It's like a little intro video. You might not actually be able to see it. So I will describe it to you if you can't see it, okay? It's only 1 minute. So it starts off with a little boy doing cartwheels around his living room in his awesome Costco sweatpants. He does a round-off back handspring, tucked back full, and lands with pride. He does pommel horse circles with pointed toes. Look at those muscles as he does a muscle up on the rings. He swings up to handstand and the reporter begins to talk. To go to the Olympics and win. That's what I said. I was 9 years old. There I am at my first Olympics, my second Olympics, and my third Olympics. Doing flips and landing and not breaking my legs. And right here, this was a double twisting, double back, and that moment actually changed my life. It says there, 3-time Olympian, Olympic champion. Please welcome Kyle Shewfelt. I like to do high kicks, but these are my 7 jeans, and one time I did it and I actually ripped the crotch. So I will just keep my legs like this. How's everybody doing this morning? Good. I know that we're a little bit cold. I'm on the watch, so just let me know. This is great. It's great to be here. I'm so excited, and thank you to Chet and to John and to Donna and to everyone involved in hashtag SMByyc. I could be a rapper, hey? SMByyc. Anyways, I'm thrilled to be here. I love social media and I love Calgary. I'm a born and raised Calgarian. This is where I've lived for my entire life and the place that I feel that I'm going to be for probably the rest of my life. And I'm going to tell you something first off and foremost. I don't consider myself an expert at all in the world of social media. Geez, sometimes I tweet like 40 times a day and then other times I don't do it for 2 weeks. So today, my topic is inspiring excellence with social media. And I'm going to tell you my story of my athletic journey. And I'm going to talk about social media, but that doesn't come until the end. Because really, we'll start at the beginning. 1988 was the very first year that I walked into the gym. And in 1988, there was no such thing as social media. But there was something called like VCR and VHS. And those were the tools that I really used to inspire myself. I used to watch gymnastics anytime it was on TV. I would be that kid that would flip through the TV guide and scroll through all the sports because we did not have the internet back then. And I would scroll through, and as soon as I'd see gymnastics, I'm like, okay, we gotta set a tape. So we'd set the tape, and if the timer actually didn't work, I had a hissy fit, let me tell you. I would scream, running around my house, I can't believe my gymnastics didn't tape, I'm never gonna be able to see it. Now I can go back and watch those meets that I missed on YouTube. But at that time, that was my source of inspiration. I also got a magazine called International Gymnast Magazine, and I remember being able to read all about the athletes in their interviews and stuff. And I was so psyched to be able to know what like Shannon Miller was thinking about before she competed. Now, it's a lot easier to connect to athletes because you can have the Twitter, you can have the blogs, you can have all that. You know what they're thinking, what they're feeling. But back in the day when I started, I had to use, videotapes and magazines. When I started gymnastics, instantly it clicked. I did tons of other sports. I played t-ball. It was so boring to me. I would stand out there and pee my pants because literally there was nothing better to do. And I played hockey, I did swimming, I did all the different sports, but gymnastics was really the one that clicked for me. And at 9 years old in the video you saw, or you didn't see, I described it to you, but I was this 9-year-old kid and I had won 7 medals at a competition in Saskatchewan. I beat everybody from Saskatchewan. Woo, big accomplishment, hey? And, sorry, is there anyone from Saskatchewan here? I make that joke often. It's okay. We still love you guys, even though you're from Saskatchewan. And so I beat everybody, and I got to be the star of the week on 2 and 7. How many of you remember 2 and 7? Oh my God, 2 and 7 rock! Ron Mans, good old Ron with his awesome mustache. It's a little grayer now, but he interviewed me, and one of the questions that he asked was, what's your dream? What's your goal? And for me, my goal was to be an Olympian and to go to the Olympics and win a gold medal. And I had some really awesome role models. There was a girl at my club, her name was Jennifer Wood, and she qualified to the 92 games in Barcelona. And I remember watching there, ready to press record and pause on the commercials, and Jen came on. And it was like, oh my gosh, somebody from my club, from my city that I trained by every single day actually made it to the Olympics. This is possible. I can do this too. And at those games, there was another athlete, and we all know him, Mark Tewksbury. And Mark is a huge role model to me, and he ended up winning. And Mark is from Calgary, and he had spoke at my school in the lead up to those Olympics. And to see him win there in Barcelona was like, wow, that fueled inspiration inside of me. So at 9 years old, I had this dream, I had this goal, I had this desire and this passion. And I really made a commitment to excellence. And when I say that my topic is inspiring excellence, I was writing some notes and I thought, what is excellence? You know, like you hear it all the time, but what is excellence really? Does anybody want to share what they feel excellence is? Excellence is when you're warm in the sun. Well, I just wrote down a few notes. I believe that excellence is when you do the right thing. I feel every single one of us has two beings that live inside of us. We have like a good wolf and we have a bad wolf. And doing the right thing is that good wolf. You're following what it's saying. The good wolf doesn't cheat. The good wolf is taking the right action. The good wolf is kind and they're joyful. And the good wolf is the one that we really feel rewarded in our lives by following that voice. But we also have that bad wolf that's like jealous, that is procrastinating, that compares ourselves to others, that always is trying to bring us down and tell us that we can't accomplish our goals. And when we feed that bad wolf, I mean, it can be very, very powerful, but the wolf that survives is the one that we feed. So you have a choice. And excellence is choosing to feed that good wolf. Excellence is polishing. We all have this potential. And we just have to polish the details. Excellence is staying focused, staying single-mindedly focused on our goals and the things that we want. Excellence is being proactive rather than being reactive. In our world, it is so easy to be reactive. But excellence is having foresight and looking forward and saying, okay, what can I do to make myself be better? Excellence is pushing past your comfort zone. Man, comfort is awesome. Comfort feels amazing when you're wrapped up in a sleeping bag underneath a tent. But comfort also kind of keeps us even keel. When we push past that, that's when we reach that state of excellence. Excellence is not settling with the mediocre. The mediocre is easy, but excellence is going beyond that. But most importantly, I think, and I feel that excellence is honoring your potential and doing everything that you can within your power to achieve it. So as a child, at 9 years old, I really made a commitment to excellence in my life. And I always tried to do the right thing. And one of the instances that really comes to my mind when I think about my journey was during conditioning. So as an athlete, you get, at the end of every day, there's a task. You have 30 minutes of conditioning, rope climbs, leg raises, and all that kind of stuff. And there would be times when I would feed that bad wolf and we'd have a set of like 3 sets of 25 leg raises on the bars. And sometimes I would do maybe 21. And that's where that whisper comes in. That whisper towards excellence is when you do 21 and you leave and you know you could have done that 4 more, but you don't. But it's being committed to that. And there was a few times where I would cheat on things like that. And it's like, that really starts eating a hole inside of you. And you feel like you're not reaching your potential. And I believe that's the worst feeling in the world is when you know that you're letting yourself down. You're the easiest person to let down in your life. You really, really are. When we commit and we have accountability to other people, we oftentimes rise to a higher level. But when it's us that's holding ourselves accountable, it's easy to let yourself down. But excellence is when you honor that potential, and when you don't cheat, when you do the 25 leg raises because you know that's what you need to do to move forward and to be better. So, of course, the journey was not like always easy, right? But how did I stay on track? I really tried to ask myself that question while preparing for this. How did I stay on track? And how did I continue to stay inspired? Because inspiration is a very hard thing to hold on to. A great blog that I follow is called The 99%, and Scott Belsky writes it. And what he is really committed to is making ideas happen. And he talks about how we get the idea, and then we start working at the idea, and it starts to unfold that this is actually going to be harder than just me wanting it and then me getting it. There's a lot of work that has to happen. So our ideas kind of fall down, and we go through this curve. And at that bottom of the curve, how do we get through this area so that we can start moving and gaining momentum again? But every idea that we have, every project, every goal, every dream that we have has this lag period. And how do we stay inspired through that? Well, for me, it was surrounding myself with great people. It was surrounding myself with a coach who was supportive and believed in my dream. It was going to a school that was going to be supportive of my athletic career. I went to the National Sports School here in Calgary. It was about what I read. I chose books that inspired me, magazines that inspired me. I watched gymnastics, and I would just constantly fill myself with things that made me feel like I was fueling my dream. I set goals. I'm ridiculous at setting goals. I set goals for every single day. And if I don't have them, I feel lost. I feel like I don't know which direction I'm heading in. But when I have the goal and it's written down, that's the most important thing, is writing down our goals. When I have them written down, then all of a sudden it's like, that's there. And I have to hold myself accountable to that. And when I get that done, then it's a small victory, and it's me moving closer to my potential. I had to hold myself accountable to the plan, and I really journaled a lot. But the thing that inspired me the most was watching gymnastics on TV and was believing in what was possible. I think oftentimes in the world, in our lives, we are so bombarded with what we should be doing, what we aren't. We don't look like that. We're not doing that. This person's doing that. And we often compare ourselves to everybody else. And that can make us bitter. And that can make us really vain sometimes too, because either we're better than someone or we're worse than someone. But when we think about what's possible, when we fuel that, when we constantly tell ourselves, like, I can become this, rather than I am not this, when we think about what we are and what we can become, that's when we get momentum. And it's very easy in life to focus on what isn't. But I guess my first tip for inspiring excellence is focus on what is. Focus on what you can be. Fuel that. Fuel your possibilities in your life. I went through periods, obviously, in my career where things were not as amazing, where it was hard to go to gym. I remember there was a period for about 6 months where almost every day I felt sick. And sometimes I would go in and I would actually not finish training that day. I wouldn't even start, because it's like, as a kid, you know, you're fueling your excellence, but also there's those downtimes, and that's life, right? Like, if we're always up here, we're just flatlining anyways. So life is about this. It's about the ups and the downs, but through the down parts, for me, what it felt like was that there was the negative forces, and I was listening to that bad wolf, that negative voice, and I was so focused on what wasn't working. And it was during these times that now, when I can look back and get perspective on it, I didn't have a very clear goal. It was right after a big competition, like a Western Canadian Championships or a National Championships. It was during those times when I felt the lag, because there wasn't something to focus on. There wasn't something to drive me. There's actually a gentleman in the room here, Martin. He's sitting. Hi, Martin. So Martin ran 250 marathons last year. an incredible achievement. And what I think Martin would equate was the fact that he had this clear goal. And there was probably a lot of days, hey Martin, where you got up and you were like, as if I'm running a marathon today. Yeah, many, many times. But it was having that goal, right? That drove you, that pushed you to that next limit, that allowed you, because you had this clear vision of what you wanted to achieve, and it was like pushing yourself towards excellence. So we all can do that in our lives, but when we lose sight of the goal, we go through that period, that lag period of like, what am I doing? Where am I? So obviously I went through that. While I was thinking about this the other day, my good friend Lori Stewart, she's on Twitter, she's Lori Stewart 19, I believe. And she gave me these awesome pieces of paper. They're called Aqua Notes. And I don't know about you, but I get my best ideas when I'm in the shower, when I'm washing my hair. I'm like, holy shit, I gotta write that down. Well, guess what? I got Aqua Notes now, so I do. I write it down. And I wrote something down because I was thinking about this talk. And one thing that my biggest fear is failure. How many of you in this room are afraid of failing? Like, put your hand up. For those of you who don't have your hand up, you are a liar. Everybody is afraid of failure because it's scary. Failure is an extremely scary thing because all of a sudden our value is diminished and we feel like we don't hold this place in the world. So is there any kids in the room here? No, okay, so there's no kids. So I'm like totally gonna drop an F-bomb. I hope everyone's okay with that. But what I wrote was, how many of you are afraid of failing? So you lift your hands. And then I'm like, well, guess what? I am fucking petrified of it. I am so scared of failing. Because failure makes you feel like you're worthless. But what I realized in my athletic career was that when you face your fear head on, your fear of failure, when you just accept that that's what it is and it's not real, when you face it and you do everything you possibly can to push through it, then all of a sudden it becomes obsolete. And I tweeted about this yesterday. Fear is petrified of optimism. Fear of failure is more afraid of commitment and of momentum and of optimism than anything in this world. So you have to, when that fear of failure comes, you have to be as optimistic as possible. And all of a sudden, your fear, it disappears. Because fear is a total pansy, man. When you tell fear, you know what? Screw you, I'm doing it anyways. Fear is just that little voice that's there to try to protect you. It's trying to keep you safe and comfortable. But nothing that's worth achieving is safe. Nothing worth achieving is comfortable. So when you put it all out there, when you really, really put everything you have on the line, then failure, it's impossible. Because when you do everything you could possibly do in the process of reaching towards a goal, then when you get there, even if that end result isn't what you feel it is, then you still feel like there is a victory to be had. And that only comes when you push past that fear of failure. So for me, after 12 years of training, just 12 years, like more than 10,000 hours, I made it to my first Olympic Games. And those were in Sydney, in Australia. And I like to call them my experience Olympics. I was 18 years old, I was a total turd, and I thought I knew everything about the world of sport and about the world of Olympics. So I was standing in the corner of the floor ready to compete at those games, and I can remember not being able to feel my legs, number one. And number two, I remember thinking, I'm competing in the Olympics. I get to represent Canada, this is so rad. Well, I started my routine and I had so much energy. I had so much excitement. And that's another thing, is sometimes I think it's about perspective. So I was standing there and I was thinking to myself, I'm really nervous. But was I nervous or was I excited? And I like to look at it as I was excited. But I had so much energy that I actually went outside of those white lines. So in gymnastics, we have this white line that goes around. It's like gymnastics is so in a box. It's got so many boundaries, like you have to do this, you have to wear tight little shorts, you got to do all this stuff. And there's this white line that goes around the floor, and if you go outside of that, you lose 0.1 off your score. Well, I did my first tumble, and I did this big, giant, awesome bounce up, and then I landed on my stomach, and it was all choreographed, but my toenail went outside of the line. And the judge lifted up the flag. He's like, haha, dirty little Canadian went out. I think he was like some Hungarian. I'm like, you're dirty. And anyways, my toenail went outside of that line, and at the end of my routine, I was super jazzed. I didn't even know what happened, and then I saw my score, and it was 0.1 off my score, and I thought, well, what's that all about? I didn't go out of bounds. Looked back on the video, and I did, and that 0.1, it dropped me from 4th place to 12th. 0.1. At the Olympic Games, the margin for error is so small, just as in life. But what happened at those Olympics was very inspiring. It inspired excellence inside of me because my friend actually ended up winning. He was a gymnast from Latvia. His name was Igor Virov. And what was so inspiring about that, to see him win, was that I had beaten him before. At World Cups in that year leading up to the Olympics, I had beaten him on numerous occasions. So to see somebody who I had beaten, who I had scored higher than, win the Olympics, all of a sudden made me really believe. I could taste it. It was on the tip of, it was right there. I just had to really focus on the details. I saw Igor after his performance, and I asked him if I could see his medal. And he was so funny. He's like, yeah, Kyle, totally. Here you go, check it out. And I held it, and I was like, holy crap, man, this is heavy. This is a heavy medal. This is real. None of this, plastic crap that you get. This was a real medal. And the second thing that I thought was, this is possible. This is possible. Over the course of the next 3 years, I really started to establish myself as someone who had a chance. I started winning a lot of World Cups, and I was ranked in the top 3 in the world on floor exercise and on vault. And it's funny when you start to build a reputation because things kind of change. All of a sudden, there's expectation. And I know a lot of us are in the top of our fields, and we start to feel that sense of expectation kind of grabbing at us. It's like we're running up the stairs and expectation is trying to grab our heels and pull us down. And before the 2004 games, I was really, really feeling it, and it was starting to affect my training. Because the thing is that a Canadian had never won an Olympic medal in the sport of gymnastics in 100 years. We tried. We tried really hard, good Canadians. We tried. But we hadn't done it. And I was on the verge. I was on the cusp. I was right there, staring into that possibility. And that was a total mind game. I almost said the F word again. It was a total mind game because I actually knew that I had a chance. And when you know you have a chance, then that villain starts to get really loud inside of your head. It tries to talk you out of it. It tries to tell you that you actually aren't good enough. And I started to struggle. My training got affected. And I worked with a sports psychologist. His name was Hap Davis. Sorry. His name was Hap Davis. And I went and saw him. And I said, Hap, my training's starting to get affected. I'm feeling so much pressure. I'm feeling so much external expectation. And so we started working on some strategies of how that we could overcome this pressure. And the first thing that we came up with was this expectation was earned. We put the positive spin on it. This expectation was earned. Oftentimes in our lives, we feel that sense of expectation because, well, guess what? You're that good. If you're ranked 50th in the world, no one's going to expect you to win. But if you're ranked 3rd in the world, top 5 in the world, all of a sudden, people are going to think you have a chance. So in a weird way, you've earned that expectation. And it's putting that serial optimistic spin on it, where it's like, yeah, you know what? I put myself in this position. I've earned this. A second thing we thought about was, well, you can't control everything. You can only control your own performance. So you can't control the judges. You can't control the other athletes. In our lives, we can't control our coworkers, we can't control our family members, we can't control our partners, we can only control the way that we perceive things. So it's like, how do you want to look at it? It is a choice. Everything's a choice. You always have two options, good or bad. So it's like, look at it as, you know what? I can only control my own performance, and I'm going to make sure that that's as good as it can be. And the third thing, I went to him and I said, I need some Prozac because I'm going crazy. And he said, I'll give you a prescription. So he gave me an RX paper, and on it he wrote BREATHE. Breathe. He said, Kyle, breathe. Whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, take 10 deep breaths. And it's amazing what that can do to rebalance you, ground you, and get you settled. So armed with all of this knowledge and all of these great ways of dealing with pressure, I went into the Olympic Games in Athens, and I felt more ready than ever. And I was standing in the corner of the floor ready to compete once again. It was my second games. I knew that I wouldn't be able to feel my legs. I had prepared for that. I was like, okay, I'm standing here, I'm ready to go. Can't feel my legs, all right, it's the Olympics, that's the way it goes. But I also felt really confident, and I was staring into the face of my dream. And this green light came on, that means it's ready, time for me to go. And I saluted the judge, and as I stepped onto the floor, I said to myself, make it happen. Make it happen. That was my motto of those Olympic Games, because I was in a position where all I needed to do was just make it happen. I went through my routine, did my first pass, I didn't go out of bounds, I nailed it. I stuck my landing. I was gonna show a video, but we're not actually gonna be able to see it, so I'll just quickly describe it. Stuck my landing, arms went up in the air. Well, on TV, it's like, I look so calm and so cool, but on the inside, I was like, yeah, this is the best thing ever. I wanted to bust out dance moves. But on the outside, I'm like a good gymnast in my little shorts. I went on through my second pass. I did a round off, a back handspring, a back 2.5 twists. Halfway through it, I heard somebody in the audience yell, I love you, Kyle. It wasn't my mom either. She was there, but she didn't yell. It was someone else. And I'm thinking, yeah, I love you too, but I'm competing in the Olympics here. But I was so in that state of mind where I was so aware of everything that was going on around me, but I was so immersed in the performance. It was literally an out-of-body experience. I was on autopilot. I was that prepared. I continued on through my routine. I held my handstand for 3 seconds, which at the Olympics, let me tell you, it feels like 20. And then I got prepared for my dismount. And I remember now being a child and standing there in training and being like, this one's the Olympics, and I have to stick it. I have to stick this landing, and that's where you land and your feet don't move. So I'm standing there actually at the Olympics, and I'm in that position where I'm like, I gotta stick it. I gotta stick it. Well, thank God, when I was 12 years old, I tried that so many times, pretending I was in the Olympics. Because I ran a little bit slower, I knew I was gonna have more energy, and I did 2 flips and 2 twists, and I landed. And my feet didn't move. And I let out the biggest yell. I don't know where it came from. It was somewhere inside of my heart and my soul that I didn't even know existed. But I was like, Rah! And I knew that I had done my absolute best routine in the moment that it mattered the most. And that is the most satisfying feeling that we can ever have in this world, is when we know that we reached our ultimate potential. Now, obviously, I ended up being in first place, and, well, my name was on the scoreboard, and then I had to wait for 5 more guys, and oh my God, I'm a really nice person, but I'm like, come on, just take a step, man, just take a step. Oh, you stepped. Bad for you, good for me. But in the end, I did end up winning that first medal for Canada, and it just happened to be a gold one, which was awesome. And I brought it here today. It's in my bag of tricks. There used to be booze in this bag, P.S., but, it's all good. So after that experience, I know everyone wants to know, what did it feel like standing on the podium? Well, I'll tell you what it felt like for me. I had 3 thoughts. The first thought was, holy crap, this medal's heavy. The second thought was, I cannot believe this is real. This is like my ultimate dream coming true, and this is happening right now. And the third thought, and this was completely driven by my pursuit of excellence, was, okay, well, I did it, so what comes next? I literally thought that standing on the podium. And I think that can be a detriment of being someone so committed to excellence, is that sometimes you never feel that sense of satisfaction and joy, and you can't be present in a moment. You can't enjoy the now. And I felt like I really cheated myself of an experience standing there on the podium because I wasn't fully immersed. I was thinking about what came next. As an athlete, you never think about what happens after you win. You only think about that moment. You're so single-mindedly focused on the routine that you never think about what happens after. And I'm going to tell you, I got sideswiped. When you win the Olympics, you all of a sudden are put in this new role, this new position where you're on a pedestal, where people care what you say. I mean, you say something, you could say something so stupid and people will be like, yeah, that's awesome. You go to events and people want to see your medal and they want to meet you because they saw you. And you get really lost. And all of a sudden you start to define yourself based on your accomplishment. You start to define yourself based on what you've done and not on who you are. You start to think that the outcomes are more important than the performance. Because all of a sudden you're in this new role where you have this medal and there's a lot more new people in your life. And I got very lost. And I know a lot of Olympic athletes do. All of them actually do. You get lost because you don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to deal with it. And for me, I always had this thought, and I know that many of us have probably had it, that if we get this, or we do this, or we make this, or we, you get the new job, you get the new car, you get this salary, you get this, then all of a sudden your life is going to have this new sense of freedom, that you're going to feel complete, that missing piece of the puzzle is going to be put into place. And I thought that in the lead up to my Olympic performance, was that if I win, then my life is going to feel whole. And that was a mistake. Because getting that gold medal and trying to place value on wholeness with that, it didn't make me feel whole at all. In fact, it made me feel more confused than I had ever felt in my entire life. Because I had this thing, and yet I had never felt so afraid and so lost. And what I became afraid of was not as much failure, but I was afraid of losing. I was afraid of being chased, because I was so driven by chasing, by pursuing excellence, by pushing myself to that. And now I had people coming after me, and it's a totally different mindset and one that I wasn't fully prepared for. At the 2006 Worlds, I remember standing in the corner of the floor ready to compete, and I was thinking to myself, don't screw up. Very far removed from the make it happen athlete that I was of 2004. Don't screw up. What do you think happens when you think that? Well, luckily at those Worlds, I only screwed up a little bit. And I took a big step back on my first pass, and I ended up 3rd place. And I remember that feeling of relief that I had won a medal, because my sponsors were going to be happy, the federation was going to be happy, all the people that I felt obligated to have success for were going to be happy. And the only person that wasn't happy was me, because I knew that it wasn't my best, it wasn't excellent. I wasn't holding myself accountable to that, and I wasn't being committed to that. I was just going through the motions. And that felt really nasty. I felt like I was compromising my values. I felt like I was becoming something different than what had gotten me to be one of the best in the world. And I knew that something needed to change, but I didn't know how to change it. So the universe is pretty special, and it really takes care of us. And I believe that the universe sends us the things we need when we need them the most. At the 2007 World Championships, I was in a training session, and I did a very good routine, and then the perfectionist in me was like, I got to do one more of my first pass because it wasn't perfect. So I did one more, and that one more really changed my perception. That one more turned out to be the worst landing of my life. I landed with 2 straight legs. My knees popped back, and both of my legs broke. I heard them pop and crunch, and it went up my spine. And it was so fast, it was like a car accident. It was like my chin bounced forward, my chin hit my chest, my teeth clanked. I still feel it right now as I think about it. And I laid there on the floor, and as I laid there, I thought, this is a wake-up call. Things can be taken from you so quickly. In an instant, everything can change. And it's so easy to take what we have for granted. But it's as soon as it's taken away from us that we realize that we must appreciate every moment and everything that we have. And for me, breaking both of my legs was an experience that really helped me grow. And it's also when my social media journey kind of started. I started to blog after I broke my legs about my journey and my process of coming back. I had 11 months to qualify to the 2008 Olympic Games. And I wanted to record as much of the journey as I possibly could in a blog, because I felt for a couple reasons it was important to share. And I think that the main reason was I wanted to have a document. I wanted to be able to look back, to know how far I've come. Because oftentimes in life, we forget where we've come from. So to be able to look back and see, okay, I feel like not good right now, but I've come so far. I also felt it was really important to share the journey because it could inspire excellence in somebody else. There was a few experiences that I had during the process of hearing from people who had been in car accidents or who had been paralyzed or whatever, who could relate to my experiences in a wheelchair and who could relate to all of that. So that was awesome. That felt amazing. But what it also did was it held me accountable to every day showing up. And it held me accountable to every day just pulling excellence from myself. So I had surgery. I got pins and plates and screws and everything put in my legs, and I spent about a month in a wheelchair, and then I got out of it, and then I could sort of walk, and the progress was really, really slow, but it was every single day looking for a small victory and being very focused on excellence and celebrating it. You know, I could bend my knee 1 more degree, and it's like, yes, I'm moving forward, making progress, baby. But there was a lot of things that kind of came up during this process. Sorry, it's a little windy here. So, the things that came up for me that I felt were really important to share. I felt it was important to share the struggles. I think in our lives, we are always so guarded about being vulnerable. And being vulnerable somehow has this negative connotation that it's going to make us weak. But I think that being vulnerable is okay. Putting it out there and letting people know where you're at, that allows people to relate to you. I hate those athletes that are like, everything is awesome and I'm amazing and I never have a bad day. It's like, you know what? No, you do, and you should tell people why your day went bad, but also what you did to overcome it, because that inspires excellence in other people. It's so important to share those stories. For me, with each good day, I really felt excited to report back on my blog about what went well. But on each bad day, I also felt like I needed a place to vent it out. Our blogs can do that for us. With each bit of progress, I thought, man, I cannot wait to share this. But with each bit of struggle, I thought, this is very important to share as well. And it was going through that up and down journey, that roller coaster journey, that really gave a human aspect to an athlete fighting back. I think we sometimes forget, how far we come. Obviously, I said that before, but one of the things that I really tried to focus on was the motto of, I like to call it TNT. Today, not tomorrow. It's so easy to procrastinate and to say that we're going to do something the next day, but today, not tomorrow. I need to do this today because it's important. That will make me move further for tomorrow. Also, to focus on all the small victories. One of the biggest things that I learned was that happiness is a choice. Happiness is a choice in our lives. We can look at the negative, it's easy, but to make the choice to be happy, to be given our circumstances and to say, this is where I'm at and I'm choosing to be happy, that's a big choice to make. At night when I would lay in bed, I don't know how many of you have read Andre Agassi's book. How many of you have read? Yeah, it's an awesome book. And he talks about how at night he would lay in bed and he would get cheerleaders, or he would have booze. So when you lay there at night, you have that voice, that whisper, and it's like, yeah, I held myself accountable to excellence in my life today. I reached my potential. And no one else can tell you if you did, but you know inside, it's right there. And I gauge it on the cheers. When you lay there in bed and you're like, yes, I was awesome today. Or you lay there in bed and you go, oh man, I didn't hold myself accountable. I was kind of lazy and I let myself down. So I would look for cheers every night to say, I reached my ultimate potential today, whatever that was. And I tried to have no regrets. Because in life, it's so easy to think about what we should be doing and what we could be doing and to be regretful. But it's like, why don't you just start acting with no regrets? Do the things that you want to do when you want to do them. Take that action. Don't procrastinate. Let's do it. Let's make that step. Let's take that step forward. Those were the things that I held myself accountable to, and they really helped me progress. And finally, I got to the point where I could do gymnastics again. That was huge. I'm like, I can do a cartwheel. Yes. Like I was 6 years old. But I felt this sense of growth inside of me as well, where I was now no longer focused on the external victory about going back to the Olympics and winning. I was focused on the internal victory, the one, how good can I be? How far can I push myself? And when we push ourselves to our absolute limit, that's when we find out how strong we are. And no one else can tell you what your limit is, but you know it inside. You have to take a moment to listen to that whisper, but it's there. Your limit is always speaking to you. And so it's like pushing yourself to that limit. I let go of the bad days when they happened. And finally, I started to believe that I actually had a chance again. So going into those 2008 Olympic Games, I was jazzed. I was feeling good. I was feeling like I was this new revitalized person where I was now back to that childhood dreamer where I was committed to excellence every single day. And at those Olympic Games in Beijing, I had an interesting experience and one that really opened my eyes. I competed to my ultimate potential. I did my absolute best, and I knew that, and I trusted that inside of my heart and inside of my mind. But at those games, I didn't win another medal. I was 9th place on the floor, or on vault, and I was 11th place on the floor, but that was my absolute best. And I left those games, and some of the reports that I read were like, Shewfelt fails and comeback. And I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, no, I didn't fail. I didn't fail. Success, and John Wooden said it the best, success is when we do everything we possibly can to ensure that we reach our ultimate potential. Success is that peace of mind. And I had that peace of mind, and I know that we all have felt that in our lives, where we can just nod our head and maybe we don't get the result that we want, but we're like, you know what? No, that was my best. That was my absolute best, and I know that, and I trust that. All of a sudden, everything else becomes obsolete because you can trust inside of yourself that you have done your absolute best. And that's where I feel like my athletic journey was meant to go, was to be able to look at the definition of success. That it's not about being the best, it's about being your best and holding yourself accountable to that every single day. So, I'm going to conclude here with, I have a few tips about social media, about my social media tips for inspiring excellence. First and foremost, get out their paper and pens there, people. Get out your tweeter, twatter, whatever you want to call it. Use social media for goal setting and for accountability. Put it out there. If you have a dream, if you have a goal, if you have something that you want to achieve, don't be afraid of failure. Put it out there. You want to run a half marathon? Put it out there on your blog. Let people know and start holding yourself accountable in that journey. Be proactive. Be proactive in your social media usage rather than reactive. It's so easy when something happens to go to your Twitter and to be like, blah, 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 this person did this or this happened or whatever. But it's like, who is that serving? How is that inspiring excellence in yourself and in the people around you? Be proactive. Create inspiring social media habits. How many of you have gone on Facebook and ended up 20 minutes later realizing you're looking at pictures of people you don't even know? Oh, you've done it. We all have done it. Social media can be amazing, but it can also be an energy sucker. So it's like, how are you fueling yourself? Set goals. Something like write one blog a day, or tweet back to all of my mentions today, or write something inspiring, or share some sort of knowledge. But social media needs to really be a focused effort, I believe. It can't just be random and reactive. It's got to be proactive. Be a little bit vulnerable. It's okay. People appreciate it. Don't try to be Superman. None of us are. Follow and interact with people who really inspire you. How many of you have ever deleted somebody off your Twitter feed or off your Facebook account who you're like, oh no, I don't care about how bad your day was. You know what? I delete people on a daily basis. I'm like, sorry, you're not fueling my excellence. Goodbye. Reflect and journal. Obviously, a personal blog can be an amazing source. You don't even have to share it with anyone, but just record. I think oftentimes when we have that sense of reflection, that's when we feel like we can move forward. That helps us really divulge all the information, all the things that are going on. So I encourage everyone to have a personal blog. I'm sure you all do. I wrote here, karma, baby. What you put out there is what you get back. So if you want good things to happen in your life, you gotta put good things out there. And also share. Share your knowledge, share your expertise. Share. That's how you connect. That's how you build relationships. We all have something very special within us. We all have a special knowledge, a special skill that brings value to other people's lives. So share it. Don't hold on to your secrets. Share them. All right. So to conclude, I want to know what... Actually, I don't want to know. I want you to ask yourself, what does excellence look like in my life? How does it show up? What's the feeling that I get when I know I'm being committed to excellence in my life? When I'm reaching my potential? And how can you use that? How can you use that feeling to inspire the people around you and to inspire yourselves? Because each day of our life, we have this amazing opportunity. We have this amazing opportunity to impact the world in a certain way. Take advantage of that opportunity and inspire excellence. Do it today. Inspire excellence in yourself and inspire excellence in your network and the people around you. Thank you.
So thank you, Kyle. Another big round of applause. Thank you very much. That was very inspiring. Yay. And we open it up to questions now, so if anybody would like to ask Kyle questions, is that okay? Is that right? No questions? Any questions?
You got a question burning inside of you, I know you do. Yes, in the back.
Just want to know how old you were when you found your passion.
When I found my passion, it's funny because my passion, I actually didn't find it. It found me. I was 6 years old and I was doing cartwheels around the living room and flips on my parents' bed, and my mom she put me into the gym, and that's when it clicked. So I think that to find our passion, I think so many people are on this endless journey to like find their passion, but it's like take a moment to think about the things that you love and the things that you do and the things that come easy to you and the things that you would do if you didn't get paid, and that's when your passion starts to unfold.
Kyle, one of the things I really admire about you is that you're always present. Is that how do you actually do that? Is it a conscious thing, or is it something that you just are?
Good question, Lana. I think presence is a practice, and I think presence is something that you have to consciously make an effort to achieve. Because it's so easy in our life to live in the past and to live in the future. But the now is like the only thing that's real. So I meditate, I do tons of yoga, and I take a deep breath sometimes and go, okay, I'm here. Like, be here now. But like Kristen, my partner, is here, and she'll tell you, I'm not always present. I mean, it's making a conscious effort. But I do find writing really, really helps, like blogging and stuff. Yeah. I think it's the endless journey, you know? You can never be present all the time unless you're a monk living in a monastery. And I don't want to do that, because then there's no orgies.
Kyle, I know you give back a lot. You work with kids and really work to inspire them and to have them to achieve their goals. Could you talk about giving back and almost using that as an external driver in terms of what you do? I'd like to hear about that.
I think in life, we come to a point when we realize that it's not about what we can get, it's about what we can give. And the way to create a legacy is to impact other people in a really positive way and to make a difference in their lives. So I guess I realized it after my win in 2004, where all of a sudden I felt pretty dissatisfied. And it was like, okay, so I got this, but what? So now I make a conscious effort to give back. And that's where I feel fueled. That's what inspires me. To make a difference in another person's life is always a way more rewarding experience than to make a difference in your own life. So Clara Hughes actually is an athlete that I really admire, and she's once said that if she was just doing sport for herself, then she would have quit a long time ago. So, and I think that's like the way life is that it's about making a difference and making an impact and thinking, how can I give? How can I give back? And even this event is a great event, thinking about that, because this is all like, it's all volunteer based. And it's about becoming involved in things that you're passionate about and that fuel you, because if you're constantly thinking about what you can get, your life is going to be pretty disappointing. So, does that? Yeah.
When striving to be excellent, when do you know you need to rest?
You don't rest, man. No, that's, yeah, you break both your legs. Oh my God, I thought that was going to be rest. That was not rest. I was banging my head against the wall by the end because I was like, I am only in my head. My body can't do anything. So it was work. Okay, So here's the deal about rest. It's so critical. It's so critical. And that's actually one thing that is a social media tip that I have. Take a break. Turn off your BlackBerry. Unplug for a day. It's amazing the effect that can have. I do these superheroes workshops, and we talk about superchargers. And it's like identifying what charges you. For me, it's yoga, meditation, running. So I know when I'm like going looking at Bobby Joe's pictures on Facebook, I'm like, I am wasting so much time, and this is not effective. I need to supercharge. I need to take a break. So then, boom, you just step out of it. So yeah, in your pursuit of excellence, it's really important to have balance. I think you eventually, if you're, like I said, if you're always up here, yeah, you may be, but you're still flatlining. You're gonna die. So you gotta, this is life. This is a heartbeat, you know? You gotta have ups, you gotta have downs. Yeah.
So 2 questions for you. First one, plans for the 2012 games. And the second one, what can you tell me about your involvement in Awesome Calgary and sort of, you know, maybe how you're seeing benefits of social media around that and that kind of stuff too?
Okay, so plans for me for London 2012. I came to this point where I was like, am I going to come out of retirement? And then I was like, hells no. So I had to get a job with TV. So I'm going to be there with CTV. I'm going to be their gymnastics analyst, which is so rad. I'm so psyched because that's what I love. Yes. And I'm going to try to inspire excellence. You know, I get to tell stories about the sport that I love, that I'm so passionate about. And it's so fun now. I get to go on YouTube and like watch videos. And I'm like, hey, yeah, this is research. These are research hours. It's perfect. So that's my goal. And actually, moving forward from there, like eventually Brian Williams is going to have to retire and hopefully I can go in and take his job. I could become Mr. Olympics. But I love television and I love sharing stories. In terms of Awesome Calgary, so Laurie Stewart, who gave me the Aqua Notes, she's the Dean of Awesome. And Laurie's a good friend of mine. I just love her energy and her sense of community. And I wanted to be involved. And it comes back to Martin's question of, well, do you want to sit back and watch something happen or do you want to be a part of it? And I'm a born and raised Calgarian and I love the city, but I think the city kind of needs some cool things, and I want to be a part of infusing that. So Laurie approached me to become a trustee for Awesome, and I said, of course, I want to play my role. I don't want to sit back and think of all the awesome things that Calgary can do. I want to play a role in it. So Awesome Calgary, for those of you who don't know, we give a $1,000 grant once a month to an awesome idea. And actually on Sunday, there's something called Audio Mob YYC, and we funded that project. But it's so fun to be a part of that group and it's just fueling inspiration, you know, like fueling excellence, being part of something good that makes me feel alive and makes me feel like I'm making a difference, but also we're providing these opportunities to people who couldn't get funding. Like, can you imagine someone saying in an application, I would like to create an MP3 where people walk around and do freaky things, and I would like money for it. No one's going to give that except for Awesome Calgary. We're like, that's so cool. We want more freaks, man. We want more freaks. So if anyone has an idea, please apply. We're looking for applications for September.
Hi. I'm just curious to know about how you, in your mind, how you balance sort of being your best and being excellent versus being too hard on yourself and beating yourself up.
I'm still trying to figure that one out. I think it's just realizing what your potential is and slowing things down and actually listening, because there is a switch that gets flicked on when you know you've reached it. We've all felt it once in our lives. We're like committed to something and we accomplish it and it's like, yes, I did it. And you just know, you just trust it. So for me, I mean, I'm always, I think I've come to the realization that in my life, I'm never going to be fully satisfied. It just isn't in my personality. But I also realize that excellence, it's worth it to me. It's worth it. Always looking to be better. I know I always have more potential. When I achieve something that's great, I celebrate it, and then I move on and think of something bigger and better that I can do. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, for sure. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah.
First, thanks for the presentation. Excellent. And being authentic, because that's really critical today. So as an athlete and as a person who wants to make a difference, I think it's very, very common for people to come to a point in their life where there's a bit of a barrier, whether it's self-imposed or it's a physical barrier or whatever. But when you've crossed those barriers and you finally get past them, and then there's another one and there's another one, but that's what you got to do to get to where you want to be. What do you go through in your mind to break that barrier? Because if you don't, to get from bronze to silver, silver to gold, gold to whatever the next step is, this awesome Calgary program and everything else, what's the trigger in your head to get past that, if that makes any sense at all?
I don't think that there's a magic trigger. I think it's just constantly wanting to make an impact and to having that be my mission in my life. And just always looking at what I can be involved in that's going to fuel me, going to fuel my own excellence, going to make me feel like I'm moving forward and that I'm making a difference and that I'm making a contribution. And I don't know what that magic, that barrier is, but it's like, okay, for example, I'm training for a half marathon right now, and I used to run 25 meters towards a stationary object, okay? So for me to run 21.1 kilometers, that's huge-a-bunga, man. That's a big goal. And I created a plan, I have it on my fridge. I'm like doing everything I possibly can to hold myself accountable. I have a group of 5 friends that I've enrolled, we're running together. So it's like filling your world and fueling that thing you want and surrounding yourself with everything that you can possibly do. And I think the normal human reaction is to start listening to that villain that's saying you can't, or that, oh, you don't need a plan, you can just do it. Well, guess what? If you don't have a plan and you don't have something that's there that you can look at and you got to check it off, it's going to be a lot easier to let yourself down. So it's like, set yourself up for success. Do everything you possibly can to make sure that you can accomplish your goal. And keep coming up with things, because, man, that villain's strong. It's like, oh, you can take today off. Eat that bag of chips. It's 10 o'clock at night. You didn't run. Just let it go. But then I look at my plan, and it's like, no, I want to check this off because I have 30 check marks before that. I'm not, right? So set yourself up for success. Create that scenario in your life. Don't avoid it. Yeah.
Hi, first of all, I just want to say you are an amazing speaker, and already I've been super inspired by you to achieve excellence. And I know that everyone does set goals. I've set goals, there's New Year's resolutions, and it just nobody sticks to them. And so you've talked a bit about how you stick to yours. I also want to know, what are some of your future goals?
Okay, my future goals. Well, they ebb and they flow. And I try to set short-term goals and long-term goals. And right now, obviously, my short-term, I have goals in different areas of my life. I believe that life is a wheel. And we have like our career, we have our relationships, we have our health goals, we have all these things. So I try to just really stay focused on setting one goal in each area. Because it can be very overwhelming. I mean, I looked at my health goals, for example. I'm like, I want to do yoga 5 times a week. I want to train for a marathon. I want to do CrossFit. I want to do this. I want to do this. And I was trying to do it all, and it was like, well, I'm actually not doing any of them because I'm doing 10% of each. which equals 100% because I had 10 goals. But no. So what I've realized in life is that sometimes you gotta like just pick that one thing you want to do, and you gotta be really focused on it. And that's the only way that you really ever get things done. So right now, you know, I'm losing my pecs, I'm losing my biceps because I'm not doing upper body conditioning, but I'm running my little tail off. And I'm getting better, and I can run 16K now, and I'm like, yeah, baby, that's awesome. So it's, I think, setting those very focused, one goal at a time kind of deal in each area of your life. So for my career, yeah, I want my television stuff. I want to win a Gemini, baby. I want to do such a good job at the Olympic Games and share the stories of the inspiring athletes that maybe it equals that. I started a coaching business, so I'm doing some performance coaching with individuals and with groups. And I believe that our world would be a lot more rad if everyone loved what they did and felt a sense of balance and fulfillment in their life. So I want to be a catalyst for that. I want to be someone that can help people get there. And I guess the big goal for me is to become a published author. I love to write, and I have some fun stories to tell. So I want to have like 5 books. Yeah.
So I think we better wrap up here. It's 10:30 now. So again, a big round of applause for Kyle Shewfelt. And also our sponsors again, Area Hub and RECA, RECA, the Real Estate Council of Alberta. Thanks again. And Viper Club, of course. Thank you very much. Yay. It was a little colder than we anticipated this morning. I think it was a good experiment, but maybe outdoor events are not so good for breakfast in Calgary, I guess. So thank you again. The SMByyc is the second last Friday. Next week, I should be sending out invitations, so please sign up again. Thank you. Olympic gymnast.